The sun had barely risen over the sprawling military training grounds when the tension in the air became palpable. A crowd of grizzled, battle-hardened soldiers and handlers had gathered near the K9 compound, the scent of sweat and dog chow lingering heavily. Today, there was supposed to be a test of courage for one particular trainee. But no one could anticipate the storm that was about to hit them all. In the center of the compound stood a young woman, tall, lean, with a calmness in her eyes that belied the chaos around her. Her name was Riley Shaw, a newcomer to the elite Navy SEAL program. Though she had just arrived, there were rumors already whispered in corners. Rumors about her unmatched endurance, precision, and an almost uncanny way of reading people. But those whispers hadn't reached everyone yet. Sergeant Tucker, the K9 unit trainer, sneered. "You think you belong here, rookie?" he barked, his voice carrying across the yard. "Let's see how tough you really are. Bring her in front of the dogs." Two massive military K9s, muscles rippling under their glossy black coats, were brought forward. Their handlers gave them sharp command, and the dogs snarled, foaming slightly at the mouth, eyes fixed on Riley. They were starving, a controlled aggression exercise designed to intimidate and test resolve, but most seasoned trainees would never be put in this situation alone. "Rip that be asterisk TCH apart," one of the soldiers jeered from the sidelines. A few others laughed, thinking they were about to witness a rookie fail spectacularly. Riley didn't flinch. Her eyes scanned the dogs, reading their stance, noting every twitch of muscle, every slight change in their breathing. Unlike the others, fear didn't cloud her mind. It sharpened her senses. The handler gave a nod, and the dogs lunged forward. But before they could reach her, Riley moved, not with panic but with precision. She twisted her body at the last second, sidestepping with a grace that surprised everyone watching. One of the dogs slammed into the barrier instead of her, barking furiously, while she kept her eyes on the second. "Stay," she commanded firmly, her voice cutting through the tension like steel. For a moment, the compound went silent. The dogs hesitated, confused by the calm authority in her tone. Sergeant Tucker's jaw tightened. "How what?" he muttered under his breath. The soldiers exchanging glances could hardly believe it. This rookie wasn't running. She was controlling the situation that Riley's mind raced. Years of training in close combat, tactical maneuvers, and specialized Navy SEAL techniques had brought her here. But she also knew that brute force alone wouldn't win this battle. Psychology and control were just as critical. She stepped closer to the dogs, maintaining eye contact, projecting calm dominance. The K9s growled, but hesitated, uncertain. Riley extended her hand slowly, a subtle but confident gesture that told the animals she was not a threat, yet they needed to respect her. One of the dogs took a tentative step back, the other mirrored it. The handlers were frozen. Then, with a flick of her wrist and a quick command in a language only the dog's ears were trained to understand, Riley took control. The dogs, once snarling and foaming, immediately dropped to a submissive stance. The crowd gasped. "Impossible," muttered Sergeant Tucker, his face pale that a low chuckle escaped Riley. "You don't have to fear strength," she said calmly. "You just need to respect it." By the time she stepped back, the soldiers were silent. The jeers, the laughter, they had all evaporated into an uneasy tension. Even the most skeptical veterans of the compound were watching her with newfound respect, if not fear. But Riley's ordeal wasn't over. Rumors spread quickly, and resentment always followed. Whispers began about her being a privileged trainee or someone with connections, and a few couldn't resist challenging her. Among them was a notorious instructor, Colonel Briggs, known for pushing the boundaries and testing every trainee until they broke, or so he thought. "Step aside, rookie," Briggs sneered later that day. "You've impressed the dogs, but humans?" His tone was menacing, laced with the challenge of someone who had never faced an equal. Riley didn't flinch. She didn't need to. She had faced worse in her past, situations where every second mattered, and hesitation meant death. Here, she had a plan. When the next drill began, it wasn't just a test of skill. It was a lesson. Riley moved with precision, disarming traps, reading opponents' movements before they even began, and handling every challenge with a combination of intellect and raw SEAL training. By the end, those who had doubted her were questioning themselves. And then came the final moment. The same soldiers who had laughed at her before were now lined up, tense, as Riley approached the K9 compound again. This time, she wasn't the prey. They were the spectators to her mastery. The dogs, once threatening, now followed her commands as though she were born to lead them. By the time she walked away, the compound had changed. Whispers of SEAL-level training, unbelievable control, and she's untouchable spread like wildfire. The rookies who had mocked her now looked at her in awe. Riley didn't care about fame. She cared about respect, earned not through intimidation, but through skill, courage, and an unwavering mind. And she had just claimed it. Yet, deep down, she knew this was only the beginning. Bigger challenges lay ahead, and even the Navy SEAL program had tests that went beyond anything she had faced. But Riley Shaw had something no one could teach: the heart of a warrior and the mind to tame even the most uncontrollable forces, be they man or beast. The next morning started earlier than expected. Sirens screamed through the compound at 3:47 a.m., ripping everyone out of sleep. Boots hit the floor, confusion turning to urgency as lights flickered on. Outside. Now, the instructors roared. Lena was already moving by the time the others were scrambling into formation. She stood ready, breathing controlled, eyes alert. The bullies noticed. They always noticed. The instructors wasted no time. They sent the recruits straight into a forced march, heavy packs biting into shoulders, the night air cold enough to sting lungs with every breath. This time, the mocking didn't last long. The pace was relentless. One by one, the loudest voices faded. Sweat froze on skin. Steps slowed. Complaints turned into silence. Lena stayed steady. Her stride never broke rhythm. Her shoulders stayed relaxed. When someone stumbled ahead of her, she adjusted her pace without losing momentum. One of the bullies faltered, knees buckling under the weight. The instructor barked at him to move. Without thinking, Lena reached out and shifted his pack slightly, redistributing the weight as they walked. He shot her an angry look. "I don't need help." She didn't answer. She just kept walking. By sunrise, several recruits were on the verge of collapse. The instructors gathered them near the watercourse, a wide, cold stretch designed to break confidence. "Pair up," one ordered. The bullies tried to avoid Lena. They failed. The water shock hit like knives. Breath left bodies in sharp gasps. Panic rippled through the group. Lena submerged calmly, controlling her breathing, guiding her partner with short, clear signals. When he started to flail, she anchored him, steady and firm, just like she'd been taught years ago. They surfaced together. The instructors exchanged glances. Later that day, during a brief rest window, one of the bullies finally snapped. "Who are you?" he demanded. "Seriously, you don't train like anyone else." Lena wiped sweat from her brow. "I train like myself." That's not an answer. She met his eyes. For the first time, there was no softness there. Just truth. "My father trained me." They laughed. "Your dad?" "What? He played tough guy in the backyard." She didn't smile. "He trained people who never came home," she said quietly. The laughter died. The final evaluation came without warning. A simulated rescue under pressure. Low visibility. Time limits. Team coordination. Chaos. Orders overlapped. People froze. The bullies panicked, shouting over each other. Lena took command without raising her voice. "Move left. Slow your breathing. Follow my count." They did. Not because she outshrank them, because she sounded like someone who knew exactly what she was doing. They completed the exercise with seconds to spare. When it was over, the instructor stepped forward. "Carter," he said, "where did you learn this level of discipline?" Lena hesitated, then answered honestly. "My father trained special operations. He believed skill meant nothing without control." The instructor nodded once. The bullies didn't say anything. They didn't need to. From that day on, the mocking stopped. Respect replaced it. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. Weeks later, as training continued, Lena never brought it up again. She didn't need it, as she'd proven what mattered. Not with words, but with calm under pressure, strength without arrogance, and skills forged long before anyone was watching. And that's the truth the bullies learned too late. You never know who someone is by how new they look. You only find out when it counts. The respect Lena earned didn't come with applause. It came quietly in small changes. No more shoulder checks in the hallway. No more laughter when her name was called. Even the instructors began watching her differently. Not favoring her, not protecting her, just observing with sharper eyes. But training wasn't finished testing her point. 3 days later came endurance week. Sleep was cut to minutes. Meals were rushed. Bodies ran on fumes. The goal wasn't strength anymore. It was decision-making when everything hurt. That's when cracks really showed. Point one of the loudest bullies, the same one who had mocked her on the first day, started unraveling. His temper flared. He snapped at teammates, missed signals, made careless mistakes during a night navigation drill. His mistake nearly cost them the exercise. He misread a marker and led half the team in a thick brush, losing precious time. The instructors watched silently. Panic crept in, voices rose. Lena didn't raise hers. She stepped beside him, flashlight angled low. "Stop," she said calmly. "Breathe. Check your bearing again." He shook his head. "I know where I'm going." "You did," she replied. "Not now." Something in her tone cut through the noise. He looked at the compass again. His face drained. They corrected course. Later, as they waited in the dark for extraction, he finally spoke. "I thought you were just lucky," he said quietly. She didn't answer right away. "My dad used to say luck runs out," she said eventually. "Preparation doesn't." The man nodded, shame heavy in his posture. The final physical test arrived at dawn, an obstacle course combined with live problem solving. Timers running. Instructors shouting conflicting commands. Simulated injuries thrown in without warning. Midway through, one recruit went down hard, ankle twisted, pain obvious. The bullies hesitated. Helping him meant losing time. Losing time meant failure. Lena didn't hesitate. She stabilized the ankle, redistributed gear, and organized the carry in seconds. Clear instructions. No drama. They finished late. The instructors stepped forward. "Why didn't you leave him?" one asked bluntly. Lena stood at attention. "Because the mission isn't the clock. It's the people." Silence followed. Then a slow nod. Graduation day came sooner than anyone expected. Uniforms clean. Faces leaner. Eyes sharper. Names were called. Lena stood with the rest, expression steady. After the ceremony, one of the bullies approached her, the first one who had mocked her stepping off the bus. "I was wrong," he said. "No excuses. No jokes. About everything." She offered a small smile. "We all start somewhere." As they walked away, an instructor stopped her. "Your father," he said. "He trained you well." She met his gaze. "He taught me more than skills. He taught me restraint." That night, Lena stood alone near the edge of the compound. Phone pressed to her ear. "It's done," she said softly at a pause. Then a voice on the other end. Older, calm, proud. "I knew you'd be fine." She looked out over the field where she'd been underestimated, tested, and finally understood. "Thanks for training me," she said, another pause. "I just reminded you who you already were," her father replied. She hung up, shoulders squared, ready for whatever came next. Because bullies only see the surface, and the strongest training happens long before anyone is watching.